Well, so this here is the Ford Figo, and a lot of people say that looks are subjective, and on this car they can be very divisive. But personally, I really like the way this car looks. It is an exciting design, and why is that? Well, that Aston Martin grille really gives it a very good cool quotient, and also makes the Figo stand out from a sea of other premium hatchbacks. So, is the interior as exciting, and is this really a car that you should consider buying as your first premium hatchback? Let's find out on the show today. Well, so if the exterior of this car is exciting and oozes a wow factor about itself, the interior, well, it's a bit drab, and that's because the quality is okay, but the design as well as usability isn't the best, and the design has been borrowed from the Ford EcoSport, but it's all black and grey over here, which makes it a very dreary place for long journeys. Also, there's a plethora of buttons over here which can confuse initial users, and it's not the easiest system to navigate as well, so that's maybe something that Ford can improve on in the next generations of this car. But on the good side, the seats are very good for comfort. The squab is pretty long, which means that tallest of tall passengers have plenty of support for their under thighs, and support for the lower back is very good as well, which means that long journey should not be an issue at all. And the other good point is that in terms of practicality, you have plenty of places where you can keep your odds and ends, including a total of 8 bottle holders, 3 in both the door bins as well as 2 over in the middle, and also you get a lot of trays where you can keep your cell phone, your sunglasses and other things of that sort. So good in terms of practicality, but a little boring in terms of design. And that brings me to 3 cool things about the Ford Figo. The first one is that this car comes with traction control in the top of the line version, and in fact it is the cheapest small car which offers you this feature. The second cool thing is that the top of the line version of this car comes with not 2 or 3 or 4 but a total of 6 airbags, making the Figo one of the safest cars in the premium hatchback space. And another thoughtful feature on this car is this little box which closes to keep your cell phone in it. Well, so here I'm in the back seat of the Ford Figo, and I have to say that the backrest angle is perfect. The seats themselves are pretty supportive as well as offer good cushioning, and headroom and knee room is more than adequate as well. And I have place below the front seats where I can stretch my feet. So in terms of rear seat comfort, it's a pretty good car. What also adds to the sense of space are these huge windows which gives you an airy cabin. Now it is a dark cabin, but that's quite okay because the windows are quite big. The other good point is that you get one big bottle holder here at the back, which means that this car has a total of 9 bottle holders, making it as good as the more expensive Honda Jazz in terms of sheer practicality. Now the Figo is a pretty wide car at the back, but there is a bit of a hump in the floor panel, but that's quite okay because the footwells are pretty big, which means whoever's sitting here has place to stretch his feet, and that along with these well cushioned seats means that this is a proper 5-seater and a good car for those long journeys. Well, so in terms of overall boot capacity, the Figo is 257 litres in terms of space, and it's a pretty decent boot. It's pretty wide, and it's also pretty deep. Unfortunately, there's a bit of a lip over here, which means that you will have to heave in that heavy bags and use your back into it. But otherwise, a pretty decent car considering its size as well as the segment that it is in. Well, so the Figo comes with a choice of 3 engine options. There's a 1.2 petrol, there's a 1.5 diesel, and there's also 1.5 petrol, which comes with a 6-speed dual clutch automatic gearbox only. There's no manual for that 1.5 petrol. Now in terms of power delivery, the diesel really is phenomenal because it delivers 100 bhp of power, making it the most powerful diesel car at this price point. Remember, the only other car which is a little more powerful than this one is the VW Polo GT TDI, but that car also costs almost 1.5 lakh rupees more. So the Figo really is tremendous value for money. The 1.5 petrol also is very good value for money. It offers you over 100 bhp of power and is still about 1.5 lakh rupees less than the VW Polo GT TSI, which also is a little more than 100 bhp. So again, the Figos really are phenomenal value for money. Now if you're in the market for a petrol car and want the manual, then the 1.2 is decent in terms of power delivery. It does not offer you a lot of power, but it's quite okay for everyday city use. Even for the occasional highway trip, it has adequate power. The gearbox is pretty good to use on both the diesel and the base petrol versions, because it is pretty sporty as well as pretty crisp, and it is a very engaging car to drive as well, because the steering wheel offers you loads of communication, and along with the communicative steering wheel, the chassis is also pretty dynamic, which means that this car loves to change lanes very quickly, and stability is pretty good as well, as is the ride comfort. So in that sense, the Figo has been very thoroughly engineered from Ford. The other good part about the Figo, of course, in terms of the driving dynamics, is the fact that even though the steering is pretty communicative, it's not overtly heavy or overtly light. It's a very well weighted, which means that even if you are an enthusiastic driver, or if you are someone who does not really like driving too much, you should not have too much to complain about. Well, if in the market for a diesel car, then there's nothing better than the 1.5 diesel of the Figo, and that's because it's 100 bhp in terms of outright power, which is phenomenal for this size as well as segment. Well, performance is absolutely shattering, because this diesel engine really does fly and makes the Figo very quick and very brutal in terms of sheer power delivery. The gearbox also is pretty good, and the other good point is that refinement from the diesel engine is pretty good as well. In fact, if you are sitting on idle at a stop signal and somebody's at the back, they won't be able to tell if it's a petrol or a diesel which is powering this car. It is actually that good. Well, highway stability on the Ford Figo is excellent, and even though the ride is a little, and even though the suspension is slightly on the stiffer side, it does soak in the bumps pretty well within the city limits. It's only the sharp crevices or those really bad rumble strips which make their presence felt inside the cabin. Otherwise, it is pretty okay. The other good point about the Figo is that it's a pretty good driver's car. If you are someone who enjoys driving or drive the car just for sheer thrills, then the Figo is pretty much in a league of its own, and only the Maruti Suzuki Swift comes close to it in terms of overall agility as well as driving dynamics. So Ford have really done a fantastic job with the dynamics of the Figo, and as I just said, if you enjoy driving, then this car will certainly put a smile on your face. And what that means is that the Figo really is an underrated car, and one which has a lot of potential as well as talents, and should be on your list if you are considering a premium hatchback anytime soon. Also, if you did enjoy this video, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, share as well as like this, and also do tell your friends about us on your social media platforms. It's bye for now, and hope to see you soon.